Hi, I'm Peggy with Headshots by Peggy, and today I'm excited because John Swanbeck is back, and we're going to have a great time today. There's so much to talk about, and I didn't warn you about anything.
No, you
so
didn't.
I want to talk a little bit about your acting class today.
Okay.
So I know Merrick's attended and he's just raved about it. He says that you have such a professional setup, and the other students are cool to work with. You know, they're really very interactive and very encouraging, and you know, everybody's there to get better.
Right.
And I think that when you have that attitude that you're there to learn, that's you know, exciting. So tell us a little bit about.
I want it to always be fun, and I want it to always be inspiring, and I want it to always be collaborative, not only between myself and the other actor, but everyone in the room.
Right.
And I like it to be hard work.
Yeah.
How do other people do it?
I've honestly. No, I was going to say I've never taken an acting class, but I actually have, just because, you know, I feel like, you know, for me as a headshot photographer, I have to really understand what my clients need. So I actually have, but just as an observer, not, you know, learning any technique.
Well, actually, more specifically, I set it up so that it's run as part class and part working set. It's not just a class. There's very much a class learning environment, and I do very much run the information part of it as a class. But I wanted to run like a working set so that people are bringing in material for either auditions or workshops or something they're filming, or for the kinds of material they'd like to do, so that they're learning in the kind of environment in which they would be working. So I find a lot of actors, they have a very valuable and powerful class environment, and then there's a translation issue from class to set.
You're pretty much on camera the whole time, right? I mean, you're very heavily on camera.
The actors are on camera the entire time.
We
work on camera the entire time, and we're doing takes. We're shooting takes, and I'm folding the instruction into how can they create film performances that look like they're already in a movie or a TV show. Because I think a lot of actors feel that the training is really the most important thing, and then the director will make them look like, we'll take all of that and make it look like it belongs in a movie or, you know, on camera. And I try to get them to understand that the director isn't looking for people that they have to make work in the film frame. They're looking for people who already know how to do what they're supposed to do in the film frame, so the filmmaker can have a good time working with them. So that's why I run it that way.
Yeah, and I think it's important because I know, you know, I do a lot of events, red carpet events and this and that. So, you know, I may do 1,000 red carpet pictures one night.
Right.
And, you know, out of that, you figure most of them are in the industry. And it amazes me that people don't know how to hold themselves in front of a camera. I'm like, this is what you do. Right.
I mean, that's the job. I try to emphasize to them, that's the audition is really a job interview, and part of it is, do you know what you're doing in the film frame?
It's so important just to understand how your body translates into the camera.
Right.
Where's the camera? How do I need to hold my body to look not awkward?
How do you focus energy?
Yeah.
How do you make a take work so that someone doesn't need to edit all these issues out of it? No one needs to be fixed. No one needs to. It's really half the job, and it's left out of a lot of classes, as valuable as the rest of the stuff is. And so I just wanted a situation where I could do both, where I could prep them for both. I'm trying to train film artists and film professionals versus, you know, just actors who then relying on somebody else to.
Right. It's good to know the technique, and it's good to know that, but you have to know practical. You know, how does what I learned apply in front of the camera?
Exactly, and how do I get there? You know, I tell actors all the time, if you're directing a movie, and a lot of them are these days, I'll say, if you're directing a movie and you're hiring a cinematographer, do you hire somebody that you have to teach how to light a shot and teach how to move a camera, or do you hire somebody who already knows so that you can have fun making a movie with them?
Exactly.
It's the same with actors. We don't hire actors that we have to fix. We don't want to hire actors we have to work with. We want to hire actors we want to work with.
Exactly.
And we want to work with somebody who already knows what they're doing.
Exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Now, do you find that most actors that come to you already have a plan? They have a marketing strategy. They have a plan for their career and what direction they're going?
Some do and some don't.
And is it very apparent?
It's very apparent. I mean, I think of it as 1/3 of it is the actor's process and the training, and 1/3 of it is what we just talked about. Do you know what you're doing on set? And do you look like you already are a filmmaker? And the other 1/3 of it is the business and the marketing.
Yeah.
And, understandably, they get frustrated because these days so much is required of them. You have to have you have to have a website now, and you have to have demo reels, and you have to be doing self-tapes at home, and you have to sort of become a producer. And if that's what it requires to have an acting career, that's just what it requires these days to have an acting career.
Right.
So they want to understand that it's just a lot of work. Social
it's
media is a lot of work, as you and I both know.
Yeah, I think you run circles around me on social media. I'm always seeing that you're posting stuff, and I'm like, I should post something.
Right. I mean, it's really, all of this is
really hard.
really hard.
Yeah.
And so there's no easy answer to it.
Yeah.
But they do have to think of themselves as business people running a business.
And I think for years, I've been a professional photographer since 1989, so I've got a few years under my belt. But for so many years, I kind of ran my business like a hobby. Like, I loved what I did, and I made a little money with it. And I used to sit back and think, why is that crappy photographer making more money than me?
Mm.
Because I'm way more talented than them.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they ran their business like a business. And
Right.
I was out having a blast and not really working the business side of it, not thinking about, I did my paperwork, but it wasn't, I didn't run it like
Right.
a business person. And several years back, I was like, you know what, I think I need to take a business class.
Oh, that was smart.
Because, this is my business. This has been my main source of income for the last almost 30 years. And, 5 years ago, I'm like, maybe I should start a business, really run it as a business. And I think actors don't understand that. They're self-employed. This is their business. It's
Right.
their responsibility to, all these things, you have to do.
These days you have to.
Well, it's harder, but it's easier because, it used to be 3 networks. Now there's a bazillion networks. There's all the internet, online
Right.
forums. There's a lot more work out there.
Right.
So it's harder, but there's a lot more opportunity at the same time.
Right.
I
right.
mean, do you kind of feel that?
Yes, and I think if everyone puts the pieces together, in the right way, they take care of the business part of the equation, and they make sure they, look like they belong on a set, or they've already been on a set, or, and the actor training as well. I think you can have a career in this business. I think there's so many opportunities.
Right.
And many more to come. I think we've only, this sort of explosion of content, I don't really see ending anytime soon. I don't know how it ends.
Exactly.
So there's just opportunities everywhere. But it's just not going to happen from just the craft part of it. That's
Right.
essential. But those other two, I think, are
really important.
essential.
Really important. Yeah. So you also you have a book with tips in it. Your clever acting tips,
Yes.
which I love. That's actually how I found you, was through your clever acting tips, because they are clever.
Yeah, thanks. The clever actor tips are actually very popular. I
Yeah.
started them a few years ago, and they really take off. I mean, they've taken off. People really respond to them. And so I think I've written and produced a couple of hundred of them so far. And when I get to 365, I'll have a desk calendar and a desk calendar app.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But the book is called How to Steal the Scene and End Up Playing the Lead. And it's just, we were talking about the actor's process and how to make it look like it already belongs in a movie. That's what the book is designed to do. They're basically my directing techniques, but articulated in a way that actors could use themselves to make it look like they've already been directed by the person they want to turn their process into movie magic. So they could do it themselves.
Right. So it's a good book to kind of get actors thinking, okay. I was taking an online class, a webinar thing, the other day, and they said something, and I was like, whoosh. And it's when you're taking a class, you don't have to learn 20 million things. You have to have that one aha moment. And I was like, exactly.
Right.
Because when you're taking a class, it's that one thing that, you may be doing it like this, and you're like, why doesn't it work? And then it's just that slight adjustment where it's like,
Right.
And I think that, with the clever acting tips in your book, I think a lot of people are out there working. It's just like a personal trainer. You're at the gym, you're working, and you're not getting the results you want. And a personal trainer comes in and just a slight movement, and
yes,
boom.
You're absolutely right. And we just talked about actors who have a wonderful craft, and yet they don't quite know how to translate it to film. I've been in so many situations where actors come into the room, it looks like they have no idea what they're doing on film, but you can tell they're really well trained, and I'll do exactly that.
Just that
knock
little...
it. And suddenly they're amazing on film. So you really want to emphasize to them, it really can, it's not some sort of science.
Right.
You have to have a degree and figure this out, or you can do this. So you're absolutely right. It doesn't take much.
Yeah, sometimes it's just that little adjustment, just that little thing. Perfect. What else do you want to talk about today?
What else do I want to talk about? Well, I wonder what they would want us to talk about.
I tell my viewers to leave me comments, and they don't. They direct message me. So if they had left comments, we would have had questions. So we're going to have to blame them for this. So what do you think they need to hear?
I don't know if we talked last time about auditions and headshots and all of that stuff. Did we talk about that?
We talked a little bit, because I know your quote about headshots.
Well, I just published something on YouTube. I have the YouTube channel also, and I do just very 45-second videos on how to do all of this. And I just posted one that got a response from actors, and it was the idea that when they come into an audition, they get the character breakdown, and they get the headshot. The sides.
Right.
And they look at the character breakdown, they go, good, got it, and they put it aside. And then they go, give me the scene. I really want to rip into the scene and act the heck out of it. And they've thrown away the most important part of the audition.
Which is?
That's what we're looking for, the character.
The character.
We're looking to see if you can create the character and then have the character interact with the scene. That's one of the biggest mistakes they make. One of them is the fact that they don't, sometimes they don't look like they know what they're doing in the frame, and they leave out character like we just talked about. And,
casting directors hire characters.
Yes.
They hire characters.
They
want a character. And that's what I tell people when you're getting headshots, what roles are you good at? You need to have a headshot that matches that, so that when you see a breakdown and you're like, oh, this one, because when they already see you in that character, of course, they're gonna give you a second look instead of just passing you by.
Well, we create characters.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of actors are told, there is no character, you are the character. The characters, you just really do a great job of acting the scene, and that's half of the equation. But it doesn't make any sense if it's not happening to a character. And you're right, on this side of the camera, we're all looking for characters.
Right.
And then characters interact with material, and they sort of have that reversed, and that's a big reason why they're overlooked.
And character isn't a costume necessarily.
No.
It's the emotion. It's the look. It's that you look at it, you're like, oh,
okay,
that's the
so, right.
that's
so
this
instance,
person.
You'll get a character breakdown that says Peggy's smart, sophisticated, and sweet. Smart, sweet, and sophisticated. It's not the entire character.
Right.
It's just a few things.
A few little things.
I think of it as, I tell actors, create the thing that we recognize a half a mile away. There's things about Peggy that are always Peggy. Peggy's an emotionally complicated human being with many sides to her. She's not just three things, but it's the three on camera. It's those three things that can create a three-dimensional human being. And then the emotionally complicated, well-trained actor fills it with all different kinds of wonderful stuff.
Right.
But if it's not a three-dimensional human being, it's just going to be a general actor doing general things.
That's good.
And so you think of characters that way, and it will be in the description. They will give you the character description. They may give it to you within a sea of information that you don't need. They'll overload the actor with a lot of information.
Right. Some of the breakdowns are like this, and some of them you're like, I feel like I read the whole
movie.
movie.
And they're just giving too much information. Right. See if you can find the things, just the qualities, the characteristics that identify the character. Bring those to life, and that is half the battle.
That's good.
That's how everyone on this side of the camera thinks.
Right. And that's why little plug for Headshots by Peggy. That's why I'm always saying you've got to have a variety. Right. Because every person has like you said, I'm a lot of things. Right. And so I'm not an actor, but an actor is a lot of things. So they should have something that represents that. So when they read that back breakdown, they can oh, this is a headshot I need to submit,
Right.
immediately, or
Right.
their agent knows, so that's why it's important to have the variety, because the casting director's a person, and they're looking at picture after picture. You want to be the one that pops. They're like, oh, I see that character.
They'll
That's
go
what I
through
want.
pictures like you just said, like this, or they'll look at clips on the monitor, sometimes with the volume muted, while they're working on something else, and they're just looking for the character.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. They just need you to pass the first test, which is, do you know what you're doing in the frame and have your character? And then I'll listen to the scene.
Right.
But why listen to the scene otherwise?
Otherwise,
right.
Exactly. Well, this has been fun. I'm so
This
glad you came back on.
Thank you. Anytime.
And definitely check out the links. Follow him on social media. Buy his book. YouTube, they need to follow you on YouTube, Facebook. You're not on Instagram, are you?
No, but I'm going to join next month.
Okay.
Now that the YouTube channel's up, I'm going to join. Because
Okay.
the YouTube channel's getting a lot of response.
Yeah.
People really like it
Good.
a lot and find it very valuable. So now I'll join Instagram.
Join Instagram. Okay, so we'll stalk you. We'll find you on Instagram. That's my favorite social media medium, because you don't have to use a lot of words. It's a photographer fan friendly.
And it's the social media platform that everyone is kind of moving towards now.
Yeah.
I mean, even a little away from Facebook. So
yeah. So
like we were just telling actors, it has to be done. You have to step
have
up.
to
You
do
have
it.
to expand. You have to take it on.
I set alarms on my phone to do social media. I do, because it's not something I love.
Well,
but
right.
that's why they call it work. Once in a while, you got to do stuff you don't love.
The irony is everyone on social media always thinks they're having a wonderful life.
Exactly.
When you talk to people, they all hate social media.
They all hate social media, and it's all.
That's it, exactly.
But Instagram, I do have fun with, and it may be what I'm eating that day. It may be where we were that day, but it's a picture. And a picture to me is my way of communicating.
Yeah.
It works for me.
Everything.
Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you.
If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, make sure you subscribe and click the little bell so that you get notifications and don't miss any of these amazing vlogs. And most importantly, have an amazing week. We'll see you next week.